Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is IC2 for Minecraft 1.19 and better. So this mod may not have functioning spacecraft, but it'll have just about everything else, from jetpacks to tools, power gen and transfer, all sorts of processing options, and I could be here several weeks with how many bit by bits I could pump out of this mod, but I'm instead going to give you the basics on how you can get into IC2 and discover this fabulous mod for yourself. So let's start down here on the ground with the basics. There is plenty in this mod to cover. From villagers, which may spawn in the world if you have certain things in front of them, to different kinds of trees, different world gen you're going to have, and so on. It's not drastic, but it does have a lot of subtle differences that really can affect how much your game is adjusted. To start with, you'll find things like rubberwood saplings out in the world. They may look like this one here that has some kind of strange orange nodule, or it may not, on each of them. And you'll probably want to keep track of these. If not, harvest them for yourselves, get the saplings, because you're going to be needing these for a lot of your different creations. That aside, there's also new kinds of planting techniques with crop sticks that may have weeds, or even allow you to plant things like saplings in a small space and auto-harvest these things. You'll also have options like ores. For instance, we've got tin, silver, uranium, aluminium or aluminum, depending upon where you're from, and of course their respective different drops. There's a couple others as well, like iridium and UU matter, but those you both have to craft in order to actually make them. You don't find them in the world. But your starting tools are going to be these: a wrench and a wire cutter. Now, a wrench, as you see here, is made simply from some bronze ingots. Bronze is made from copper dust and tin dust together. Now, you don't have to have this wrench to start with, but these two tools are going to basically follow you throughout things. You may have ways of upgrading them later on, but they are things that you will want for when you get into machinery. Just keep this in mind, and we'll cover bronze momentarily. First, though, let's get into that rubber tree sapling. Now, if you recall, I did mention that you're going to want it for all sorts of resources. This is because, one, well, you can get wood from it. You can also get the leaves and so on. But if you see this nodule here, you can use a tree tap, which is just crafted with a few wood planks. And as before, if you're very familiar with this mod, you just right click and some kind of, well, resin, sticky resin, will pop out of it, leaving the nodule empty, but it will repopulate over time. Now, what you can do instead is put a tree tap and bucket, which is just a flower pot or an actual bucket, plus one of those tree taps, and leave it there permanently. If you click on this nodule spot with a regular tree tap, as opposed to the tree tap and bucket, you keep on clicking on there, you could potentially get a little bit more sticky resin, but then it will never give you any sticky resin ever again. So that's something you don't want. Instead, tree tap and bucket is the way to go. You just put this on here, and anytime that there's some available, you can just right click on it and it will give you some more sticky resin. Now, it may take a day or so for it to actually repopulate. It would do the same thing for the nodule that is on the side of one of these trees. And yes, you can find multiples of those nodules on a single tree. You may also need to strip off some of the leaves in order to find them, but it should be there in most cases. That being said, what do you do with sticky resin? You smelt it. You smelt it into rubber balls, and then you can use that for any number of things. Primarily, wire crafting or armor. In this case, we're going to be covering a little bit of the armor that comes up next. Now, it does have quite a progression tree for this. If you get yourself a little bit of orange dye and use a bunch of those rubber balls, you can make yourself the beginnings of a hazmat suit, or at least the chest plate and the leggings. The only problem is you notice that the durability on these is very low, though the armor and toughness is actually really good. You just have to be careful around these things. They can do a lot of things for you. They can protect you from fire, let you swim in lava, and so on, but you do have to have an entire set equipped. Now, I'm only showing you the first two. There's also the scuba helmet, which can be added into that, and of course it's also extremely cheap and has the same properties, but again you have to have all four pieces equipped. The last piece being rubber boots, which will allow you a measure of protection when falling, which is actually really helpful and is also a very cheap and simple recipe. Again, they all have very low durability, but they can help you when working in hazardous environments. Beyond that, we've got things like bronze, composite, nano, and of course quantum armor. Each one is going to be a little bit more challenging to make than the previous, and some of them actually require power, perhaps some of the nanosuit upgrades, as well as just about all of the quantum ones will. The bronze suit, if you look here, there are several different bronze weapons, tools, armors. You can find this with some of the other metal materials as well, like tin or silver or something like that. You might even find some shields, but you're going to want to progress to this in order to make it. And it is just your basic material list, you know, for Minecraft. But then when you get into something like the nano or the quantum armors, they're going to be very complex and require lots of circuitry and so on. The composite, on the other hand, is a little bit more, well, varied. You are required an iron helmet with a leather cap and advanced alloy plates, which of course are mixed metal ingots in a compressor and so on. It's a little bit of a process, but not nearly as bad as some of the other ones, and only requires some of your first basic machines for you to actually be able to make it, and it gives you a really good defensive capability. Now, just to give a little mention, there's also things like a solar helmet. You'll notice I'm wearing one on my little avatar here, which can help keep your different items in your inventory charged up while you're exposed to the sky. If you're underneath something like this, you will not gain any kind of benefit from it, short of any kind of armor rating that it might have. Now, moving on, we're going to get into some of the early on basic stuff. There is some ways to shortcut this, and I would recommend that you actually get yourself one of these, an electrical engineer, which requires an iron furnace to be made. An iron furnace can either just be 8 iron ingots or a regular furnace with 5 ingots around it. Placing this down, you should get a nearby villager to take up the job of an electrical engineer. Once you've done some trades, you can easily get electronic circuits, machine blocks, advanced circuits, compressed solar panels, and even complex circuits and more from these guys. They can really set you on your way with getting all sorts of different kinds of machinery and tools. I highly recommend you start with this just so that you can save yourself a lot of materials. Of course, you're going to want to get yourself a whole bunch of emeralds in the process, but that's more vanilla Minecraft oriented. Now, there are other villagers, and this is just an example of one of them that sells some different things, as well as an electric jetpack just for 9 emeralds in this case. But you can find out a little bit more about that in your Industrial Craft 2 Classic Wiki. Now, this is a little bit to make. It, again, requires one of your basic beginning machines, and that's a compressor. But you should also start with it in most instances, unless your mod pack has it removed. Upon opening it, you'll have several pages that explain the intro and everything, but once you get a few pages in, you'll get this wonderful screen here, and you can choose and select where you need to go for every different thing in here. And if you notice, there's 540 pages, and this still only glances over a little bit of what IC2 has to offer, but it's pretty thorough with giving you at least a basic idea, if not a thorough description, of a lot of the things in this mod. Moving on from that, let's go into some of the basic tools that you probably will want to start making straight away. And that is an electronic circuit. Now, if you don't have villagers nearby or you don't want to do the villager trading, that's fine. Electronic circuits are made from redstone dust, insulated copper wire, and refined iron. Now, refined iron, you might think, oh boy, what is this, a new alloy or something like that? No, it's just iron that's been smelted again. Very simple. On the other hand, you've got insulated copper cable. This requires a bit of the rubber that you had before, and you either put some copper ingots in the middle, or you can make some copper cable without insulation just by, putting some copper ingots in a line in a crafting table. These can be used to transmit power to machines or from machines, depending upon how you want it. We'll cover that momentarily. But once you've got electronic circuits, you're also going to want a reusable battery. Now, these are made with redstone dust, one of those insulated copper cables, and some tin ingots. Very simple, and they're empty when you first start with them. So you will likely need to have some way of generating power, which will be covered later on in this video. Right now, I'm just taking you through some of these things, and you can determine for yourself where you really want to start. Let's begin with this, the mowing tool. So, the mowing tool is actually quite entertaining. You notice we've got a whole lot of grass and flowers and stuff like that. If I right click, it is now enabled, and anything I look at pretty much is just eliminated entirely. It's really nice for just cleaning up anything around your base. I'm not even clicking, I'm just looking at stuff and it goes away. Just right click again and it will disable it and you're done. It's a simple thing of just some of those refined ingots, electronic circuit, and a reusable battery. On top of that, you will need a turbine blade because it's got to have something to cut these weeds with anyway, but that's just a few refined iron ingots. It also works on tree leaves as well, so if you have a tree that is currently just in the way, you can just trim it out real quick. So let's go on to the next item, a chainsaw, because that's naturally what you would craft as an early starting item, right? Or at least I would. A bunch of refined iron ingots, electronic circuit, and reusable battery. It seems pretty standard, and once you've got it charged up, you can use it to cut down different kinds of tree options very quickly, as well as shearing sheep, because that's how you shear sheep. Going into survival mode, you can see I can actually strip the wood as well, just like I would with a regular axe. I can use it to quickly cut things down at the cost of a little bit of its energy. If I bring out a sheep, I can use it to shear the sheep just like I would with a pair of shears. Or you can use it to kill things rather quickly. As you can see here, it does a decent amount of damage to different kinds of mobs. So this is a really good beginning weapon for you to choose from. Next up, we have the drill. Now there are, of course, with any of these, or most of these, and others, there are several iterations of these and different kinds of refinements of different tool levels. These are just the beginning ones. The drill is just a bunch of refined iron ingots, electronic circuit, and reusable battery, same as the others, and it's very simple. You can use it to actually mine up different ores and stones very quickly, and it pretty much works on just about everything. Keep in mind though, of course, it's going to have its own limitations, but it's not going to be those that you might think. In this case, this plain old drill was able to mine up some obsidian. Now, of course, there's the electric hoe, which will allow you to do things that a hoe would, but it also allows you to create things like these, seed bags. If you plant something down in on regular farmland, you'll get regular vanilla crops. But if you use these crop sticks, as I was showing you before, and you plant those down, then put your seed bags or seed pouches on there, you'll get a special variant from the IC2 mod that will actually allow you to kind of grow it, similar to AgriCraft, where you can start harvesting different levels of it, have it with different strengths and so on with these little seed bags. In this case, this is just some wheat that I've got here. So I'd plant this down, I'd put the wheat down, and so on. And just by right-clicking this, you can see it will enable seed mode, and then when you break the crop, it will give you the seed pouch back instead of the regular drop that you might get otherwise. So this is one way of getting these special drops so that you can start making these things a lot easier to get. You can also increase and decrease nutrients and so on. There's a whole lot going into farming for IC2. So if you're a farmer, don't think that this is just all about tech. This can really be a big farming mod for you. So we've gone over some of the basic starter tools, or at least what I consider to be some of the basic starter tools, but let's go over some of the first basic machines and power setup. I will show you how to do or how to produce some early game power shortly, but first let's actually cover some of the machines and how power works in this. This is a bat box. Bat box is made with reusable batteries, insulated copper cable, and some planks. This is your starter level power storage, basically a large battery box, if you will, instead of one of these reusable batteries that you have in the world that just, you can use it to charge things with. If you right click on it, you can see it has power in it. I've already put some in it from this reusable battery. And you can see that it can also charge things if you put them up here. It will uncharge anything that can store power at the bottom. This is basically one way of powering something up or charging things. If you have power being fed into a bat box, you can then charge things just by putting it here in the top. Sort of like all of those different tools and items or even weapons that I showed you briefly. Now, if you notice, it has some different cables coming to and fro in this battery box. Now, on the exterior of the battery box, they're all the same except for one facing that has a circle on it. This represents the output. All the other facings represent an input. So if this currently is facing like this, it is going to try and input from other sources into this box, but it's not going to output whatever charge is in there unless this face is facing to the side. Same thing with this battery box, which has none in it. Now I have some different types of wire. Yes, IC2 does have some destruction on the machine mechanics as well as the wires. If you overcharge a wire, it may burn up the wire, but it's not too difficult to upgrade your wire early on. Now there are some that I would recommend if you're going for something that is really not producing much power and you need to go a long distance with. tin cable is going to be good. It'll last you up to, like, what is it, 5 energy, I think. It's really easy. But you're going to want to start with insulated copper cable at the beginning. We've discussed this several times now. It's a really good starter one, and it'll go several blocks before it starts losing any of its power that it's transmitting. Now you'll notice I said insulated. One, it will transmit a little bit better if it's insulated, meaning you'll lose less power over longer distances. But two, it'll keep you from getting zapped. If I use this wrench, I hold it in my hand, and you'll notice that it has these little kind of colors on the side. Blue means that something is going to change about the block. Basically, it's going to try rotating the block in this direction, that direction, this direction, or it's going to just flip the face on this case. Or if I right-click on the red side, it will actually try to pick up the block. This is something you need to be aware of. A wrench has a chance of actually, well, for lack of better terms, converting certain blocks back a step. So most of your beginning level stuff is going to be pretty basic, but as you progress, you're going to want to upgrade your wrench into better wrench versions so that you can get a better chance of not ruining your machines if you need to move them. If you notice here when I look at this one at the top right, it says 80% drop chance. Yeah, something you're going to want to be careful about is that. So if you need to move your machines, don't use a pick, use a wrench, but also use the most upgraded wrench you can find so that you have the least amount of chance of losing it. Now, when it gets lost, as I was just saying, it doesn't actually just break and disappear. It will probably refer back one stage to one of its basic building materials, like a machine block in this case. And usually you don't lose too many materials in the process, but sometimes it's the only way that you can move these blocks. Anyway, using the blue, you can rotate your machine to face a different way. So if I do this, it's now outputting along here, and you can see it's currently powering up this other battery box by going along this power. But if you notice, this is a live wire. And if I'm too close to it, I start getting zapped. So you're going to want to make sure to insulate it. Going back into creative mode, I feel a little bit safer on this, and you can see that the power is transmitting. And it doesn't really matter as long as the power that's going through it isn't going to burn up the cable. You should be okay, and you can find the ratings for that, of course, in your Industrial Craft 2 Classic Wiki, which will give you all sorts of explanations for the different numbers and how each one can take so much power. But at the early stages, a battery box should always be fine with any kind of copper cable and above type cables, including also it should be fine with tin cable. You can probably even have those just transferring into it and so on. But as you notice, this is facing out. It's currently feeding into this level the amount that was in there. And some of it might have been lost due to transferring a certain distance or perhaps maybe even zapping me. But yeah, there is some loss over longer distances, which is why I'm bringing up early on. You probably want to try and invest in glass fiber cable. If you don't have a lot of power cables going through your base, or you have some that are constantly being used over maybe like a 15 block distance or something like that, I recommend taking some of the diamonds you get and making some of this stuff. It's relatively cheap. With some redstone dust and a diamond, you can make 4 pieces. And if you have some silver ingots, which you may not have much use for early on, you can make 6 pieces. And this will definitely help keep things a lot safer around your base. You won't get zapped from them, and it'll transfer a lot more power, a lot better than copper would with less loss. Now, just to give you a very quick notice on how you can actually use wire cutters, if you have rubber balls in your inventory, a quick right click will put that, one of them at least, on an exposed cable. If you hold Control and left click, you will then get the respective rubber ball back. Anyway, enough about power transfer. Let's talk about some of these machines. We've got a lot to go over. This one here is a stone macerator, a stone canning machine, and a wood gasifier. These are going to be your first stone types. Then, of course, your iron furnace, which is going to spawn our really helpful friend over here, which can get you a ton of great materials early on. So, stone macerator. This is going to be something you definitely want early on, and that's going to be flint, some cobble, a piston, and a furnace. What does a stone macerator do? Well, you just need to add in some kind of fuel and then some kind of ore or other item. You can even click on the middle here and you can see the different things it'll make. Turn most things into some kind of dust or powder. Now, you probably don't want a silk touch iron like this. You probably want the drops from it so that you can get 4 ore from 1 iron. Normally, an iron would drop 2 of its raw material. In this case, just by putting that in, I only get 2. If I grab a piece of raw iron and put that in here, as well as toss in another piece of coal because I've been talking for too long, you'll see that it converted that raw iron into 2 iron dust, which is actually going to be better than the 2 from like a silk-touched iron ore. So be sure that you're processing your raw ores early on. Now, yes, this does use coal to start with or other burnables, so keep that in mind, but this is also going to allow you to make things like bronze. So you can take the different items like copper and tin, grind them up into bronze dust, and make yourself your beginner sets of armor as well as other tools that you might want. Not to mention, it also has the potential to just start duplicating all of your ores early on, which you will need. Trust me on that. Let's go over the stone canning machine. This is made from stone and smooth stone plus a furnace and a crafting table. It's really basic stuff. It can help you with early on versions of just better food altogether. But only if you have something specific here, and that's going to be a tin can. 4 tin ingots will make you 4 tin cans. Now these are reusable, and yes, it's just like soup where you get a bowl back or something like that, but it will also allow you a much better way of eating food. So let me give an example here. If I put a piece of bread in here with a little bit of fuel so that it gets processed, plus a bunch of tin cans so that it can start doing so, depending upon how much saturation and food pops the bread will actually give you, or the food in this case, you'll get a varied amount of different filled tin cans. This says, this looks good. So you can eat it and it will give you different effects. It will ultimately, most likely, give you better saturation and better fulfilling food, or at the very least the same, but it will also heal you 1 heart every time that you eat one of those. Now on top of that, if you take something like this, an enchanted golden apple, you put that in there, you process it, you get something a little bit different. In this case, we get this filled tin can. This food reminds me of Notch, and you can eat this and it will give you a little bit better of an effect than you normally would get. So it's really good. You can stack these up high and you can eat them very fast. So you can also, on top of that, you'll notice that my food saturation level and everything is currently full. Well, I can keep overeating and oversaturate myself, so I don't need to actually stop eating if I didn't want to. So it's just an overall better source of food. But you do have to keep in mind that you may find things out in the world like spider eyes or other stuff that might give you bad effects. This smells kind of sweet, but sometimes it might smell really bad, like this doesn't look appetizing. Sometimes these are not the best food types for you, but overall I say it's a definite improvement on the general food mechanic in Minecraft. Now, wood gasifier, this is the beginning of something that will be continued later on, but you need wood and fuel to burn it. This will basically just convert your wood types, your logs as it is, not planks, only logs, will be turned into something like charcoal, which then you can use to refuel this and so on. It will also create a little bit of a wood gas. If I take something like a cell, in this case it's made from just 4 tin ingots, we'll get you 16 of these things. Put it in here, you can actually fill it up and then take it back out and use this as a power source later on. So it's a really good way of producing charcoal as well as getting a good power source afterwards. And you can automate this, or at least the upgraded version of it, in the future. And of course, who can forget the iron furnace? I've already shown you how you can craft one of these things. It's a basic furnace, but it burns a little bit faster and a little bit more efficient than your regular furnace would. As you can see, it goes a little bit faster, and I think ultimately you'll use a little bit less of the fuel. In case you hadn't figured it out already, this is only part 1 of a 2-part series. In the next one, I'll be covering power and machines, or at least in the early game. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I'll see ya.